This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Travis Schachtner for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So we love to talk to people from around the world. We are a live podcaster. And one of the questions we ask anybody before we get to the heart of your story is what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
I am someone that comes from a family that doesn't ask why when you say you want to do something. It's usually why not? Why not? Just go try.
Mhm.
And so I was raised around that, and to this day, I've learned it's really rare to have that type of a support structure around you when people are just saying, why not? Just go do it. Worst that can happen is it doesn't turn out the way you want, but you tried, as long as you tried and learned, that's the best thing. So that's how I've been able to get to where I'm at. And that's why I am where I'm at.
That's like a kind of a growth mindset. And we're kind of getting that speak with all these people that are out there, as TEDx speakers, and they're always talking in these terms. But I come from a creative space. I'm a musician, and I tend to talk to a lot of creatives, and the creatives tend to not want to be in the box. They tend to want to have very expansive thinking outside the bell curve. They tend to be on the edges of that. Sometimes they're neurodivergent. They see being in a box as a constraint. They rather be on the outer edge, and maybe I'm not drowning, but I'm kind of wading into the deep end because I want to try it. Well, why not? Like the same mindset you have. The permission structure is amazing because like a lot of times people don't have that. Like I've talked to people like their family structure, their microcosm versus the macrocosm kind of set them up to, oh, you shouldn't do that. You need to stay safe.
Yep. I found a lot of my friends and I, we find it refreshing like that. Just everybody else will ask you why. If I come at you with why not, it's motivational. It's, I could do this. Like I'm coming up with reasons how I could do this. I'm not coming up with defenses on why I can't. And it helps. I've learned that it helps people if they really want to pursue something. It really helps them actually develop the plan. And if you take an interest and you're like, why not? And then they start telling you, they start getting excited about it. And it really helps the people around them get excited about stuff too. So it helps in that way, and thus keeping the positive energy going in almost any endeavor.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have that positivity because, like, some people look at things like all or nothing. Like, they want to go 0 to 100. They go see on the net. It's like, oh, there's 10 steps, right? This person goes through a 10-step program, but what they forgot to tell you is there was 15 years and then those 10 steps.
Yep.
And so it's like, did you go and try to do the 10 steps without having the 15 years? And they didn't really go through the 15. They kind of glossed over the 15 years of what they went through. Well, it's not any wonder why you can't repeat it.
Yeah, the running joke with my wife is when we become 100,000-aires. We're not shooting for millionaire yet. We got to get that 100,000-aire first.
Yeah. I think it's real important to have like, little wins. And in my business of like being in software and also in, left brain, right brain art, the idea of like the happy accident, the idea of like flow state, a lot of times like you have a plan. But if you remember, like your 10,000 hours, like an athlete that gets that 3-point shot of that play because they did all this muscle memory. And if you give yourself the permission to say, hey, I'm not going to have a lot of angst about my ability to be on the fretboard or ability to be on the keyboard. I kind of know that, right? So stop worrying about that and think about the art. Or not think about the art and go into flow state, go into dream state, go into your subconscious and actually let it from the muse, get a download. And let your hands do the work.
And like for artists, it's giving artists know this, but like it's athletes, it's the people that have been successful. But artists and athletes especially, you got to be willing to give yourself the opportunity to try and fail. Because if you're not trying and failing, you're not pushing your limit. You're not pushing your limit in your art. You're not pushing your limit physically. You're not pushing any of those limits so you can keep achieving. So that is actually really important, is to giving yourself that little bit of permission to fail. And then and then learning from that. Like, okay, I didn't get it, but how didn't I get it? Why didn't I get it? Maybe if I tweak this a little bit over here, those those lessons of what the little tweaks you need is what leads you down to further and further success.
Yeah, it's like, in waterfall versus agile, like in software design. Like waterfall, you had to have everything right, right? In agile, we go 1.1, 1.21, 1.51. We keep on having these iterative processes. You see it on your phone every day. You see these updates.
Yep.
Because whatever we knew yesterday, we actually learned something different today.
Yeah.
So we can continually upgrade and iterative development. We just keep on adding to the UI, adding to the algorithm, adding to the database, doing structural changes, doing these changes. It's like we can continue.
Yep.
Like ad infinitum. It doesn't matter. And we don't have to be 100% success rate. We could be at like 97. We could be 92. We could be at 80. Because if it's a good idea, we'll just put it out there. We know we got to tweak it.
Yeah. I teach trades, and that goes into that too, because the machine you get when it's with the software and everything, once it's all installed, that's it at its peak. From that moment on, it's only wearing down. So you need to constantly be making adjustments. You're constantly making tweaks. And the best part is most of the people that actually use the machine for work won't tell you that they broke it for some dumb reason. So you're just trying, like, no, I know you were running it perfectly, and then this part broke that you had to do. Okay, yeah, you ran it perfectly. Let me troubleshoot.
To figure out what went wrong. Yeah, it's just interesting. Like what we were going to talk about today is this idea of the romanticization of a leadership problem. And like I'm trying to, I want to understand what your take on that is. I've read some things about your point of view coming from some theories in terms of like Maslow's principles and things like that. But I want to get your take on what do you mean by that?
So the romanticization of leadership is a concept that has been around since the 80s, but it really hasn't taken hold until recently. And it's basically it's giving people who put themselves in formal leadership positions too much credit for stuff. and then we study that person instead of the people that got them the success. So my favorite person to talk about with this is like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs gets a lot of credit for like Apple and the iPhone, but he was a horrible boss. Like he was a notoriously horrible boss when he was alive. He was known for throwing coffee or coffee cups at people. He was not someone that you wanted to work under. But he gets the credit for the iPhone when it's like, wait,
how many engineers were responsible?
Yeah, who designed the phone case in order to make it so it doesn't hold heat? Who designed like all these little tweaks and all this stuff? So he gets all this credit, but the day-to-day work was done by the engineers and the designers that were architects pretty far below him.
That's one thing I always like understand, because like you start looking at, I don't want to name names. Well, you named Steve, but we could go into what's out there in the world. But there's an electric car company.
Yep.
That somebody thinks this guy's Edison.
Yeah.
Or Nikolai, right? Yep. But he bought it from engineers that actually designed it.
Yep. Well, and then, I'll bring his name up. The catch with Musk is that he doesn't want to get credit for where he was good at. That is my issue. Like, from a leadership standpoint, that's my issue with him. He is a very smart investor who was willing to take major risks and was rewarded for willing to take those risks. The problem is that I have with him is that now he's trying to say things he's not.
Yeah,
he's not an inventor,
an astrophysicist, or he's like,
he's not. He's a really smart. Like if he just went with I'm an investor, and I was willing to take these risks, people would be listening to him and taking him a lot more seriously than they would. Where he's like, oh, I'm designing this and doing this. It's like, you didn't do anything with SpaceX. You're not into it.
Yeah, you're not an you're not an aeronautical engineer.
Yep. And when people compare him to Edison, the catch is like Edison actually invented stuff. He was like he had patents.
Tesla invented stuff too.
Yep. The catch was like he also hired a bunch of people underneath him and then got his name on the stuff they invented because he had the money to do that.
Yeah.
That's great marketing. Like
an investment, well, you're basically a venture capitalist.
Yep. But he knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, enough to know that. He's high level enough to know that, hey, this is a good idea.
Yep.
I should actually buy this idea and buy it up and put my name on it.
Yep. And he was in his lane when he was talking about invention. So he was able to he was able to assist. He was able to really see where the talent was. He knew what he knew. And the most important thing is that he knew what he didn't know, and he wouldn't step on people's feet. And that's the catch with Musk is he's not willing to admit what he doesn't know.
Yeah. And so really dangerous in IT.
Yep.
If you're in, technology development, like one of the core things I've been involved in for the last 25 years is being able to admit what you don't know.
Yep.
Right. And it's what you don't know when you go into the jazz session and you're going on that whiteboard and you get everybody in a room. It's like you say, hey, this is the limit to what I know. What do you know? Like, is this possible? Like, what are the options?
Yep.
And don't have this preconceived notion that you know everything.
Yep. And and that goes into like being a technician. Like there's a difference between the technicians need to be willing to admit that they don't know things, but it matters on your audience. Like I like to compare technicians to doctors in that you don't want me in front of my client, which if as a technician would be like the managers and the owners of buildings and stuff like that. You don't want me walking in going, and freaking out a little bit. You want me with confidence to say, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And then you walk out of the room. You can have a breakdown outside of the room as you're trying to figure out what the problem is, but you need to know when you can be confident and know when, and still be able to say, I don't know.
Yeah. Like when you're internally, if you get a situation where the internal JAD development, your actual engineering development sessions, and you're not honest in there, because like one thing to be on the client site, because I've had to travel to Tokyo and go places. Like if I'm in front of a client in Tokyo, okay, I'm not going to go say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yep. But you might say, I'll figure it out.
What are you doing in Tokyo? Like you got to say, like, here's some options. Here's some things we can look at. Here are some use cases. Right. Here's some business cases. Yeah, we can come up with like theory and
here's things we can build on.
Yeah, and at least show them something substantial. Create some UI and kind of it's a prototype. We can prototype something out. It's all theoretical, but you can still put it up. Now you might not have figured out to the 99th degree what you need to actually get it done, but you can still present like something that shows you're in the room.
Yep.
You're not outside the box. You're actually where they want you to be.
Yep. So that's where the romanticization of leadership starts. And then it's bled into a lot of other things. Like the way I propose it is that there are 3 roles in the world of employment. In my book, Employment Ethics, it's one of the things I break down is, there's 3 roles in the world of work. The first role is supervisor. The second role is manager. And the third role is leader. Now, in the world of employment, a lot of the people in any position above anybody will give themselves the title of leader. But the only real roles that exist in the world of work is supervisor and manager. And the term leader is something that just is earned because when you look into studies into leadership, the world of work, that employer relationship, that's the weakest form of power. You're not doing something because you trust me. You're doing something because I control your paycheck. So, and then what I do is I break it down. So like, the role of a supervisor, their number one role isn't being a leader. It's ensuring that a task gets done. That's what they're there for. They're you get a task done. I have some formal authority that I hold over you. Get the task done, and then there you go. I'm just making sure that the task is done. Then the manager, their role is management. They're taking care of resources. And humans are resources. So like HR, that's literally their title. They're making sure that that you are working within the bounds, the constraints of your resources. In supply, they're making sure your resources are maintained, and that's the role of a manager.
So it's very transactional.
Yep. And then a leader where supervisor's focused on task, a manager is focused on resources. A leader, the only time you really need a leader is in times of crisis, conflict, or change. If you're not in any of those moments, or controversy is just people think that something's going on. But if you're not in crisis, conflict, or change, you're just managing or supervising. And that leadership role, that leader role, is something that's earned because, unlike the other two, there's no formal power. It's trust. I'm trusting that the person that's telling me to do this thing is going to get it done. And that leadership role might not even be the supervisor or the management. It might be a guy on the line that's saying, hey, we got to get this done. Mm-hmm. I know management's saying we got to do this. Everybody's saying we got to go do this. We all think it's stupid, but we got to get it done. And so that's where the term leader and leadership, that's where it's really being applied. Management and supervision, though, are taking credit for it. Oh, you guys got it done. Well, that's because this guy who I've been working for 10 years said we got to do it. So I'm going to do it because he told me to. I don't care what you told me.
So you look at like if you look at like a startup, like if you have a startup where you have like two co-founders of a company,
mm-hmm.
right, and they actually put their money in and they come up with the idea, and then they're considered like the CEO or the CFOs of that company. Do you actually still call them leaders because they actually founded it?
They're leaders in their field. They founded something within their field, right? But that's where those breaks start happening. You may be a leader in your field. You might have started a company, but again, if you're a leader in your field, but you're not a good employer, and people are constantly turning over under you, you're not doing well as a supervisor or a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that's the thing is, if you have structures, right, and they look at those employees as like widgets, right?
Yep.
They look at them as resources. They don't care if the turnover is really bad.
Yep.
They say like, as long as I have somebody on the floor, somebody in the cube,
yep,
somebody at the meeting, doesn't matter who they are, versus like somebody that actually has a working relationship and knows that this architect has been here for 10 years and has successfully completed these projects or these products.
Yep.
And I know that if we give them a new one, they're always going to do it, rather than I can go find this consultant and I can get them from like Hong Kong, or I can get them from Dubai, or I could get them from wherever. I just want to fit that position. I don't care. I don't have that relationship. I don't even know if the guy can do it.
Yep. And that's why they're being managers and not leaders, because that key component to leadership is trust. And if you're not trust, it develops over time. It might come from reputation too. For the example that you gave with the two people, one of them might have a solid reputation as a leader. So you've already banked some with me as an employee because you invested in, you have that reputation of trust. And then I'm staying on long and I'm seeing that person doing stuff that develops more and more trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I've developed more and more of a relationship. Then that person's becoming a leader. Whereas the other guy might be purely, I'm a numbers guy. We need bodies on the floor. That person is just being a manager. They're just being a supervisor. They're just trying to hit quotas. And the catch is they will give themselves the title of leader, but the title of leader is earned. And
Yeah.
I think that's another problem that's coming up, is a lot of people in what we would label as leadership roles. We used a lot of terminology that they gave because they don't want to say that they're in management roles.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to say that they're in supervisory roles because those don't sound entertaining.
Yeah, project manager, like a project manager might not be as entertaining as I'm a project leader.
Yep.
Or I'm in the leadership role, or I'm at a director level, or I'm at,
Yep.
in at
And
the A suite.
yep. The other issue with the giving of their own titles is it ends up leading to higher turnover in those leadership roles, because instead of leaders looking for the proper way to develop it would be leaders getting into a leadership position, what we would call a leadership position, some of the higher level positions, and then bringing in a strong team of managers underneath them to help get their vision done.
Mm-hmm.
Because leaders will have vision, they're going to communicate their vision to everybody else, and then they'll bring a strong team of managers in to help them get that vision done. What ends up happening is it happens a lot in nowadays stuff is I'm a leader and I want to surround myself with leaders. But the catch is those leaders are going to want to implement their own change and their own visions outside of what you want to do, or in addition, or try to add on to it, onto your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And you're making it so that they're undermining your leadership by them implementing their own and undermining their own stuff, because now they're trying to instead of trying to focus the resources on one vision, we're spreading out our resources on multiple visions.
So
and no one's in alignment, and everything's become siloed because none of this stuff is in proper alignment. So
seems like a communication problem. Because like if you have a communication problem where you don't really, if you get together, like, I don't know, I've been in business like 25 years, and we used to have like a one software company, the programmer, the business analyst, the QA, the architect were all sitting in the same spot. We're all there, and we were there for like 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we all worked on projects. We gained experience. We learned how we all worked together, and we were successful.
Mm-hmm.
But then they started saying, "Well, we can just farm this out to this, globally."
Mm-hmm.
So now we're not in the same room anymore, and now they're giving it to consultants, and it's changing every 6 months. So now suddenly all these resources, it doesn't matter that we had these work connections, that we knew each other, we knew how we worked, and we could walk over to the architect and ask him a question. Now we don't even know who the architect is, and do they really understand the problem?
Yep.
And so it's so siloed, or we say, "Oh, we could just farm it out and it doesn't matter." It seems to matter.
Yeah, it's the issue comes in when it's, especially if you're farming out stuff from a team that is very experienced with working with each other, that team, like we said before, they've built trust with each other. They know each other's strengths, and again, they know each other's weaknesses. I'm not going to go and bring this job to this person. I'm going to go to this person for it because it's in their strength. If I need something else, I'm going to go to this person over here. So each other's strengths and weaknesses, not just in their fields of expertise, but just in general. Like, I know a few years ago we had this problem here and the architect figured it out, but it wasn't something that they knew about. It was just something that they happened to be interested in. Mm-hmm. And no one else could figure it out, and this guy did, because it was just something that they were interested in on the side, and so they brought some experience we weren't expecting, right? So those relationships are built up, and when you start farming the stuff out to other companies, you lose all of that trust that was built up between that smaller group. Not saying you can't have it with other groups. Mm-hmm. But it makes it hard if they're remote. It's harder to build up that relationship because you're not seeing each other. It makes it so that you don't know the capabilities of the people. Like, especially if you're farming it out to another company, your point of contact, again, with understanding who's doing the job, that point of contact usually isn't the person doing the job. It's usually somebody else.
Something
I'm
like
contacting the project
facilitator.
manager and some other engineer is doing the work because it's getting passed on. Well, just let me contact that engineer and I can use technical terms.
Yeah,
You
but then
know?
these people are the facilitators, right?
Yep.
So you can't get to the person actually doing the work, right? And so then if you can't get there, then also like the SOW, like the SLA, like if
Mm-hmm.
you got a statement of work, right? And you had a certain way of doing something, but you decided it's cheaper to give it to this third party.
Mm-hmm.
This third party is not in spec. They're
Yep.
off spec. But somebody made a decision, well, we can be off spec.
Yeah.
Really? Like, so we can be off spec and then, but you didn't consider the downstream or upstream
Yep.
impact. You just thought about the first quarter impact of it costs less money to do it, right? Then you start getting complaints. Then it stops working. It starts breaking, it starts wrecking stuff. It started reducing your quality
Mm-hmm.
because you're saying, hey, I can go off spec. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So that's what I see a lot is people to say, well, the tolerance can drop. Or the specification drop or the level of quality. We don't have to be 99%. We can drop down to 92.
Yep. And it's like, but that was one of our key selling points was our spec was so high.
Yeah.
Like if we're willing to drop down for a quick buck, like that's actually undermining our reputation, which was built on us being so high. And that's the big chase that we're in now. The other part, another component to that romanticization of leadership is when we allow the takeover of the language, like I was talking earlier, people giving themselves the titles of leader.
Mhm.
But the catch is a lot of people really mistake leadership or management when they're in the management role. They just mistake it for a leadership role. And
Um,
they surround themselves with those managers, right? But a lot of those they'll start surrounding themselves with yes men, like,
mhm.
oh, my vision is perfect, and it's like, no, a good leaders are willing to listen to criticism, because if people are willing to give you criticism, they're trying to protect you.
Yeah.
They're trying to protect you, and usually and most importantly, they're trying to protect what they've invested themselves in. If you're not willing to be open to that criticism, you're waiting. It's just going to happen where you have that moment where it fails.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna get these massive failures, like because if you allow your tolerances to drop, right? If you allow
Yep.
your quality level to drop, the inspect drops down. And it's like, oh, we can actually put out more product, but your product's defective.
Yep.
Maybe people won't notice,
Yep.
right? I
Time
lived
is
in
the greatest balancer of anything. That when your tolerances go down, time will make sure it catches up.
yeah, people will notice. They will start to know it. Maybe they don't notice the first quarter, but the second quarter, third quarter, maybe they start noticing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was in Japan one time, and there was an interesting situation. I was there for 2 years, and I was an American company, went to Japan, tried to create a product, a financial service product. And the Japanese solution, like if they made a mistake on their annual statement or any kind of communication go to the client, they would book a convention center and apologize to the clients.
Mm-hmm.
Our people would say, well, we don't even worry about that. Right. And I said, well, if you're in the Japanese market, if you don't do that, you're not gonna have the market.
Yep.
And so the American guys couldn't get it. They were like, oh, we don't need to do that. And the Japanese guys were like, we have to do that. And I'm an expat there, and I get these guys flying in from the office, and they say, why are they so concerned? It's like, because you're gonna wreck the market.
Yep. Yep. The reputation of a business is, it used to be that even if layoffs were a huge problem, because if a company was laying off, that showed weakness in the company, that hurt the company's reputation. If you had any recalls, if your company, if you weren't hitting your performance marks, like these were all issues. Granted, this was 50s, 60s, 70s. If you didn't hit your marks, if you were doing stuff that nowadays would be considered, oh, it's a smart move to lay off 1,000 people.
Yes.
Like back in the day, that would be considered horrible because it was seen as your company isn't properly producing.
Yeah.
You're not maintaining your market share, right? But nowadays it's like, oh, that's a smart business move. And it's like, no, you're undermining your own reputation because everyone's going to hear about this stuff. And it's just flooded the market with all of these companies are laying. When you have a CEO saying they can't wait for AI to get strong enough to replace his people because you don't have to negotiate with AI.
Yeah. Well, there's a big problem with some of these workflows that they go into this AI, right? Like I was looking at this one situation where, right, like sometimes you need customization or understanding. And like whatever you teach AI on, it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. Like on the language models, if you don't give it every example of every possibility, well, the problem with AI, it will hallucinate. If you give it data for only 2000 up to 2005, and then you ask it a question about 2007, it will still try to answer the question about 2007 with inaccurate data. It will create a hallucination, and it might seem very convincing if you don't check it.
Yep.
You can get burned. I mean, their doctors have been burned, engineers have been burned, attorneys have been burned by depending on their chat GPT response without checking and verifying it.
Well, I tell people when it comes to AI, like the biggest catch is that AI as a tool is great when it's focused. If you teach it in a narrow channel, this is what I want you to focus on, and you just feed it that, it's perfect. It'll work great, right? It'll figure things out. It'll help you out. It'll work great. The problem is when you like with ChatGPT and others like it, where they try to train it on everything. That's when that's when you get the garbage in, garbage out. Because I tell some friends, for every Shakespeare, there's 10,000 people who wanted to be Shakespeare.
Yeah.
For every Stephen King, I wrote a horrible fiction story back in the day, and ChatGPT probably learned off of it. Like it's
like garbage in, garbage out. It's like whatever it learns, if it thinks it's the truth, it will use it. And the hallucinations, and then like I can go put it into a SQL or VBA code. It will help me find the syntax error. Well, that's very useful. That's useful. That's being a tool.
But it's useful, and it's a narrow,
very narrow.
It's doing its narrow focus.
Yeah, but if you tell it like, oh, come up with the whole like program for this workflow, right? A lot of insurance company workflows have tons of exception processing, have manual override processing. If you don't give it the ability to say, hey, if the CSR gets an override, batch don't overlay it. It used to be a machine operator to make sure the batch didn't overlay it. But now you're going to have the AI be the machine operator, and it says, well, I don't know anything about these overrides. Just blow over them.
Yep. I have some friends that work in IT, and they love the using AI to help them solve small problems. And they're like, the number one skill that people can be learning right now is learning how to edit. Like checking your AI to make sure that what it's putting out is proper, correct. It will work. Verify sources. If you're using ChatGPT, how do you properly verify the sources for what it's coming out? Make sure how you know how to read it.
And notes. I mean, check the line. I mean, check to make sure that it's got the footnotes and the end notes, and it gives. You have to go back into your kind of. I went to Bowdoin, and like when you write a research paper. You got to find your sources and verify you're not plagiarizing or pulling the wrong information.
And then when you're done with all of it, you're going back through it again to make sure. Okay, double check it. Now before I turn it in for the final time, here's all my stuff. So but that's the key is knowing how to properly use the tool. And right now, like when new tools come out, when new drugs come out, here's what it's meant for. now let's see what it can do, and then how do you properly constrain it? How do you properly use it in these other areas? And that, I think that's where we're at with ChatGPT and with all this AI stuff, is we're learning how to properly use it.
It kind of goes beyond it.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is, like, if you don't have good leadership, right, and you have something like AI, and being a musician and being an artist is like, copyright law is very important to artists.
Yep.
Right. So all these tech bros, they all blow by the copyright law, blow by the privacy laws, blow by the HIPAA laws, right? Because now the same thing happened with, like, sampling. Like, the sampling technology that came about, people didn't clear the samples.
Yep.
Because the technology could just do it, and you didn't have to clear it because the tech can just do it. So we're in the kind of situation where the AI can go grab copyrighted, plagiarized stuff, just plagiarize stuff all over the place. And because they can't keep up with it legally, because you haven't created digital rights management for everything. Music has pretty good digital rights management, but other things don't.
Yep.
And because it hasn't caught up, it allows people to, like, you're stealing people's content.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest downfalls with it is, like I said, if it's one thing if it's like we're using it for law. It's one thing if we're using it for medicine. When you're using it for very niche public areas, it's a great. We're using it for industrial stuff. When you're using it for niche areas, I don't think there would really be any controversy if that was what the target goal was. But we're using it to write books. We're using it to make art. We're using it to make music. It does allow, like, accessibility, because I follow some YouTubers who they have speech issues, so they're using AI voice to help them with their speech. Like, okay, I'm not going to talk, but I'll use this, and that's a
great. Like, if it's a tool for, like, somebody who's disabled or neurodivergent or autistic, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're going and using it to write 99% of your artistic content, and it doesn't actually cite the references that it used, then that's where I get the problem.
Yeah, and I can't draw, right? So, but I've used AI art to be like, this is the best I can describe what I want, and then I gave that to somebody else to actually work with.
Really do it. Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, I don't know how to best explain this, but do you get what I'm trying to get at here? And they're like, yeah, I can work with this. Like, okay.
But some people will go and take that AI and say that's piece.
Yep. That's not what it's really intended to be used for. It's meant to help you collect your idea, get it together, and then move on. If you want to use AI to help you not write your book, but if you want it to help you, like, find resources, hey, where can I look up this thing? And then it'll come up with stuff. If you want it for, hey, I want to design a logo, give me some of the ideas for that, and then you can send that off.
Yeah, my daughter is a sequential graphic artist, so she does logos by hand. Like, that's what her job. And there's so many people in the industry say, "Well, we can go with the AI." But when you actually see, like, a professional artist that does
100%,
like you don't know the difference.
Yep, it is.
People got to figure out the difference.
Yep, there is a complete difference. Like, I but understanding that what the intended use for it is, and understanding what are the wrong uses of it, scraping data so that way you can write your book based on this, or I can make my own music because I'm scraping all these other influences and not crediting them at all. And that's I think the part that sucks the most is I would have less of a problem if they gave credit. If you want to say, hey, this was inspired, here's a list of people that, like,
that's what happens with samples. With samples, you have to clear the sample.
Yep.
And so, like, a problem I have with some of this tech today is, like, if you're a musician, and, like, there's a difference between being a producer or a DJ
Yep.
and being somebody who can play a bass or a Steinway or a good electric or a Les Paul or
Mhm.
Telecaster, right, or a saxophone. And it's a different skill set.
Yep.
So you got these people who are basically like DJs, and
Mhm.
they're grabbing clips and then rearranging clips, and maybe they figure out ways to rearrange. And now then, but the problem is a DJ at least is creative enough to rearrange the clips. The AI is actually doing that.
Yep.
Now this person isn't even being a DJ. They're letting the AI rearrange the clips, and then they're not giving credit to where they got the clip from.
Yep. And that, like I said, that's that's where I have my biggest problem from it is it is you're either not giving credit or you're giving made up credit. like like
You're acting like the machine. This is the biggest problem I have. There's a famous person that did this. So they acted like the AI actually created brand new music.
Yep.
Come to find out that it grabbed a bunch of unpublished, independent, like lower, like not known songwriters that
Oh.
had submitted tons of work, and this person scraped through all that work and then did a collage of it and hoped people wouldn't recognize it. But a bunch of songwriters actually recognized that their songs were being pushed by this fake. Well, this idea was that there was this made up character that was an AI generated artist. And somehow this AI generated artist had created brand new work, but it was built off all this unpublished work from other creators that
And
wasn't
that's
credited. And I'm like, that's the problem when people with some of these tech bros say, "Oh, it creates music." No, it doesn't. It grabs
it steals
pieces
music.
from other people.
It
That already
steals it steals a quarter from this person and it steals a quarter from that person and it steals a quarter from this person and then it says, "Hey, look at that. I made $1."
that's why, this idea, like, we need to let innovation happen. We need to take leadership in AI. Is like leadership in AI is not stealing people's copyrighted
Nope.
patented work.
Yep. Management in AI would tell you that it is. It's just a resource. It's just a tool. Supervisory would say, "Oh, it's just a resource. It's just a tool." But leaders in AI would say, "This is stuff we shouldn't be doing because it's hurting people, and you can't build trust through AI. Like you can't build like you need to have uh that understanding that we're building. The key to being a leader is ensuring that that trust isn't being abused because I might do something in the future that I might need to depend on you and
Mhm.
and so you're going to have to, and I can't give you a good reason, but you're going to trust me that it's going to get done and I'm going to trust that you're going to do it. And when it comes to the world of work, how I put it is what a lot of people look for in the world of work when they're talking like trust, when we're talking leaders. Leaders want trust, managers and supervisors want commitment.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, in that world, in the world of commitment and in the world of employment, commitment is researched not for why you stay, it's why don't you leave.
Why don't you leave?
Right? So there's three main components to commitment. They call them need, ought, and want. Okay, need is the most basic. I am here for the paycheck. But what happens is I start looking around the world and saying, okay, I want to get a better job. Okay, I haven't been here long, and it's actually the one that's being the most misunderstood right now. Why aren't people staying? Well, because you're not meeting their need. I'm only making this much money. I need this much to live. So I want a new job. So I'm going to start looking around, right? And the reason I'm staying is because if I were to get a new job, I would need to make this much money to move. I'd need to make this much money just in case the job doesn't pan out. I need to make this much money to send all my stuff to the new place. I might be making more money, but maybe where I'm working costs more to live.
Yeah.
So I need to stay where I am at. And this is a big problem in rural communities.
Because they're kind of
Right.
locked in because they don't have as many choices.
Yep. The bigger jobs are further and further away.
So you got to take a risk. Like your safety kind of quotient is like, I don't know if it's safe for me to go.
Yep. Financially and physically safe for me to go. So that first need, and that's the problem they're having right now, is the other two is ought and want, and those two are developed over time. So if you're not keeping me at that need level where I feel good where I'm staying at financially, it's easy for me to walk away.
Mhm.
And that, like I said, that's why you have this high turnover rate
High
with younger
turnover.
people, because they're not making enough money to move out. So
Well, if you look at, like, I've heard it, like, for inflation, people haven't gotten pay raises for
yep,
decades,
yep,
right? And if it
and
only
just
the top boardroom, the C-suite gets the money, right?
yep,
And then they wonder why the turnover is high. If you keep on making your health insurance cost
more and
responsible
more and more.
for the worker. Like, I started working, give an example. Like, I
Mhm,
started working back in the '80s. I mean, the '90s, and, my insurance costs were maybe, like, 200 a month. Now I got a family in the '90s, maybe
mhm,
500 a month. Now my family insurance cost is, like, 2,500 a month.
yep,
So, that is cutting into how much I can put away for a vacation, how much I can do for 401k.
and it
And
and it
it's like,
makes
if you're transferring all that to the employee, but you wonder why they're not happy.
yeah, and that's the catch, is like you were doing that in the 90s, and now your children are in that environment where their jobs haven't really seen a big pay raise, but the cost of insurance has gone up drastically.
Yeah, and so they're wondering, like, why like, how come that you don't set aside 15% of your income? How can you set 15% of your
Yep,
income when your health insurance cost of this?
yep,
And you still gotta pay copays,
yep,
and you still gotta pay, deductibles,
yep,
and you're paying crazy amounts of money out. And so the problem I have with the structure is, like, you haven't like, you've it's so top heavy,
yep.
and it's not considering the fact that, like, you're not gonna if you're not excited and you're not passionate about your work, what's the productivity and efficiency and quality of the work being produced?
And that's where the other two pieces of commitment come in. Is so we have financial commitment, your need to stay, right? The other one is your ought to stay. That's this is my career, right? Or no, sorry, your ought to stay is this is these are my friends, right? I want to be here because if I leave, I'm leaving my friends. We're
Mhm.
supposed to the my favorite, well, my the biggest abuser that you hear the most common is we're just a family here. You don't want to leave your family. Like, why would you leave your family? That's the creation of guilt based on the real personal relationships you have. That's another level of commitment. I don't want to go because they're gonna be short. I don't want to leave these guys. They're gonna be short-handed without me. This guy just left a couple weeks ago. I can't do the same thing to him, right?
Mhm.
So you build up guilt in yourself because you're committed to your friends. So that's the ought. And then the final one, that's the one I meant to say was this is my career. Okay.
Mhm.
It's the want to stay. It's the pride. Um, and it comes from this is what I've been doing for years. This is what I went to school for, but also I've been with this company for a decade or more, right? I've seen this through thick and thin, that the pride and the want to stay because of all the other things that you have done, right? um that one is both the ought and the want are built over time. And when you have a problem with them staying a long time, the ought and the want are the ones that will keep people there the longest. But if you don't have them staying there over the long term, they will just leave. But if they've been there a while, if I'm 5 years from retirement,
Probably not gonna
that's
leave me.
that's hard for me to leave, even though the company, I'm 5 years from retirement. Well, I've been here for 15 years and I've been to school for 10 years to do this job. I'm not going to walk away from this career. And the company knows it. So they're going to push and keep loading up your plate as much as they can, pushing you more and more into burnout if they can. And
Yeah.
if they're strong leaders, they'll make sure that you're protected from that. They'll keep a flat, hey, this is a level of professionalism. This is a level of production. This is a level of service that we want from you. And if you hit that, we're golden. We're not going to,
Mhm.
like, leaders will care for you. Managers will say, this is what we want. Oh, you made it and you passed it well, this is what we want now. Oh, you made that. Well, this is what we want now. And they'll keep adding on.
Yeah, well, it's like in the tech world, there's this idea that we need to match productivity from China and have this crazy amount of work that you do the maximum amount of
Mhm.
hours you could do in a week, and it's expected like a startup mentality that you should work like 90 hours, you
Yep.
know,
And,
and
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 they don't
that's
like
like
it when
coming
you.
from a certain leadership, well, at least the tech bros who push this out there saying, "Hey, that's how you're successful. You burn yourself out."
Yep.
Really?
And you don't you point out, like, they have catch nets around their buildings in China, right?
Yeah, no,
Like, you're
you
that's you're not showing that you care about people when you're trying to match people who are pushing their employees that hard.
yeah, and then you're thinking that's what you should do in Silicon Valley, that you should bring that
Hmm.
mindset, and I hear these tech bros running around talking like that,
And
and it's just it's so interesting because these are the same guys talking about, "Hey, AI is gonna replace all the workers, and it's gonna be a universal income." And I'm like, "Okay, if that's true, Google has been using my information to make money
yep,
for the last 30 years, and they never paid me. So you haven't shown me that when you take money, you're using my information to make money, you never gave me any of it.
yep,
So why would I believe that you're gonna give me a universal income?
yep.
Because your example has never shown that you would ever do that."
No, I am I when it comes to like universal income and like all of that stuff, I'm on board 100%, because my take is we are not living up to our grandparents and our great grandparents' dream of the workforce. They used to dream that our work week would be like 32 hours, 24 hours. Like, that was the workforce of the future. And everyone would be employed because the wealthy would be wealthy, but you'd be able to like work 24 hours and make all your ends meet on that wage, and everyone would be able to do it. But instead of, and that dream actually comes from having, if we make sure that everybody has a universal basic income and we make sure everybody is insured, we can have that dream. Because if you take this, one of the biggest costs for um for a business is the cost, the fringe benefits. It's the health insurance, it's the dentist insurance, it's the
Mhm.
vision insurance, it's the retirement package that you get. And if you have a UBI combined with strong insurance, well, now you're lifting that from the companies and you're putting it on the people, and the people, that makes it actually so that the companies could properly hire out, and they could run however many hours they want to run on shorter schedules and have more people employed, and it wouldn't change their cost. I had one of my students, and this was something that happened to me like my second year of teaching. And I had a student come in and he pointed out, like, I was talking about like overtime and stuff, and he pointed out, like, that they're making money when you make overtime. And he was telling, and I'm like, what? And he's like, they're not going to have you have your line, all those people on your line work overtime if they're going to lose money. So you could be making that overtime wage as your regular wage, and they'd still make money. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have a point there. So, like, they, if you remove that package of fringe benefits and you just put like a flat rate on the people and insurance on the people, it would actually make it so they could hire people, and you'd be fine. Like, the catch is the undermining of it. That's been going on. The undermining of that idea that success at those that are successful at the top are the only people should reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's the problem because it's all these kind of pie in the like blue sky ideas
Mhm.
that you would actually do that. But my example is like there are structures today where people make money off of your content off of Facebook and Instagram. The content that these people are just putting out on your own social media. These companies make money
Well, it's
off of
not
your
just
stuff, and
that.
they don't pay you, right?
It's
And the idea of having a universal income, if you thought you were gonna be that egalitarian, how come you've never done it?
Yep. And it's not just that. The fastest way to become a rich person in the United States is to get on the government dime. Remember, Facebook started on universities. It was a way for people on a university to start. They started on the government dime.
Yeah, the whole internet is government dime. It's
the whole internet's government dime. Yep.
Yeah, the Defense Department system,
Yep. So the fastest way to make money is on the government dime. And you have these people that made boatloads of money on the government dime telling everybody else, no, you shouldn't have any of the government dime.
Yeah, defense contract is the ultimate welfare.
Oh, yep.
Yep. Like if you're Boeing or Lockheed or Halliburton, all these big companies, like they look at the Defense Department contracts, like look at the government contracts for any of the big systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you see like, all the big AI companies are trying to take over the largesse of like the Social Security system, the IRS system, all of the systems that we have from the old world, like all the mainframe COBOL stuff that was out there for the last 50 years. They're all trying to take it and get massive contracts.
Yep.
And commingle all the data against privacy laws.
Yep.
So that they can track from your HIPAA to your IRS to your DMV to everything, to your postal system record. So they can cross-reference everything, which is against the actual written law.
Yep.
But the systems can actually do it. And the law hasn't caught up.
Yep. No, and there's too many private-public partnerships, but it's we're at a time where we have a loss of leadership, because I actually do think that we have to redefine in the world of work. We have to redefine the world of work, but when it comes to like the political world and the public world, we really have to work on actually defining what that leader is, and not fall for.
Like a lot of our gates were based on like the Constitution, or based on our initial laws that are physical, but now we live in an electronic cloud-based world.
Well, it's a lot of the gates. We are in the longest period of history where a constitutional amendment hasn't passed. Like that, the gates were the people were proactive in getting things addressed. And what happened is you got people that were really pushing back against doing that. They're doing the work of the people. Mm-hmm. And so we really need to get back to getting back to doing that work. And that's where we need real leaders to be stepping up. And we need people to say, this is what I'm looking for in a leader.
Yeah, because we definitely need a new constitutional convention to deal with the age of the information age, because our rights are being like if leadership needs to look at the whole like the expansive nature of what we can do. Our tech has outstripped our constraints,
outsped it. Yep.
Yeah, totally gone way beyond it.
Well, I think it's less that the tech has gone beyond it. It's that we could keep up if we wanted to, but we have powers that be that don't want to address it. They're being paid not to address it.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And that's where that leadership comes in. We've got too many people that are complacent and not worried and not listening to the problems. They don't understand the problems. And then they do, I trust this other 80-year-old to figure it out. And the 80-year-old's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it's also you get told different information, because it's like it's the information age. But somebody tells you that the competitive advantage is for you to lose your privacy.
Yep.
The competitive advantage is for you to not have your copyright rights or your public rights or your medical privacy rights. Mm-hmm. That's my competitive advantage, and you're actually going to keep yourself from getting a job. But guess what? You were never getting that job because it's going to be robotic and AI.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that you're going to get this mythical job if you give up your privacy and you give up your rights, your intellectual property rights and your property, any kind of rights that we knew from the 19th century, 18th century, mm-hmm. right? Now, like they're telling you one thing, so I buy that because it looks a shiny object that makes sense because the way they spin it. It's like, then you're not going to win if you don't learn how to have critical thinking.
Yep,
and get understand, digest what they're giving you.
Yeah, and that leaders, people right now are depending on in positions of power, depending on commitment, and they're not understanding that they need to constantly develop that trust. and they've taken it for advantage that they would have that trust. So no, yeah,
Do you
we
think it's
could
gonna be
we could keep
broken
talking
trust?
about this for hours.
Do you think it's like a broken trust, though? I mean, do you think the state of the world is that trust is broken?
I don't think I don't think that it's the trust is broken. I think people got lazy and they don't understand that they're, especially in the political realm, they don't understand that they need to develop that trust constantly, because you always have new voters coming in,
Mhm.
right? So you need to, every time you're coming up for an election, you need to rebuild that. This is why you need to trust me, right? And what happened is it instead of you had one party that stopped developing trust, and you had another party that was focused purely on commitment and loyalty.
Mhm.
We don't need to be loyal to you. You need to be loyal to us.
Yes. Yes.
And that's that loyalty and commitment. They go hand in hand. Everybody at the top, I don't need to be loyal to the people below me. You need to be loyal up. And that whole thing was built around that mentality, and it took a long time to get them there, but they're there. And then you had another party who was like, trust me, I'll get something done at some point in time. And it's like, you when?
Yeah, well, you need to know when you're gonna do it and how
Yep.
you're gonna do it, and it's like, where's the buck stops here? Like, where's the
Yep.
I go back to, like, you look at, like, somebody like, Eisenhower, you look at, like,
Yep.
FDR. FDR is like, "I got a plan.
Yep.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get you out of the Great Depression and
And
get
then
you
they would
working on
do it.
Hoover Dam, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna give you the Social Security
Yep.
because you were dying out there in a dust bowl. Like, if you're an old elderly person, you had no dignity,
Yep.
right? And now we're telling this like, oh, we're gonna give that to a bunch of like Bitcoin, blockchain. We're gonna put your retirement. Social Security is about security,
Yeah. But
and then
it
you're gonna
was
put that into blockchain.
well, the catch was you can trust. The whole thing came down to, you can trust me, and this is why you could trust me. When you're talking like FDR, when you're talking Eisenhower, when you're talking most of the presidents from the past, it was, you can trust me. Like, you can trust this. You can trust the system, right? We will make sure that the American people will be like, that was the whole point. And then it became, you had another group like, you can't trust them. You can't trust me. You can't, like, we're stealing from you. We're
Yeah,
gonna take your stuff. Like, no, don't trust anybody.
yeah.
You did.
There's like the disruptor, like the disruptive situation where you kind of want to burn it down.
Yep. And
Uh,
I can understand where the process started, but the catch is that trust was built on the original trust was, we are a community.
mhm.
And what happened was, when you undermine that trust, like, you're undermining the community. And it started at the top, and that undermining, it took years to get there, but it started at the top and worked
Now it's
its way
just like
down.
goes to the
And
bottom.
now you can't trust your local government. You can't trust your school board.
Well, now people don't trust their neighbor. I mean, you've got
Yep.
like
You
us
can't trust
versus
your
them.
neighbor.
It becomes like, divide and conquer.
Yep.
Like, they
And
play balance of power. Like, divide and conquer is kind of how you play the game, right?
yep. And that's where I say it's I don't think the trust was really broken. Some people got exactly what they wanted, and other people, they trusted the system, and the system kind of moved, but it moved at a snail's pace, because it wasn't, the people that were in power were getting benefits from
Yeah,
not really pushing the
not doing
envelope.
anything. Well, you got both. You get the problem is, like, we'll kind of get into the close of it, but like, if you've got things that tend to go be top heavy,
Mhm.
and the same people from either group, like, are in that top heavy structure, right? They're in the same room. They're going
Mhm.
to the same place. They're going to the same restaurants. They're still in the same goal. So it's like, oh, what's the real difference?
Yeah, they're building that leadership relationship. They're building it amongst each other and not amongst their constituents.
Yeah.
That
And I
is
think that's the game where people maybe don't realize that. They think one group is with them,
Mhm.
but when both groups are actually not with them.
Yep. And it's it's super frustrating to deal with. It's super frustrating to see. I would argue that what both groups have worked really hard to make sure that the natural transition of power, just due to age, didn't happen. Like, that's been an ongoing issue. But I think the biggest catch when it comes to like politics is what we're seeing leaders stepping out now. They're pointing out that this is a problem. They're pointing out a lot of stuff that really needs to be addressed, that we really could address.
Gotta coalesce and hope people don't go into their camps.
It's
like, I hope you get enough of a fire to get people to agree, and enough of a level that you actually can get change.
Well, it's let them go. The catch is you got to let them go to their camps. Like, good ideas are come out of people coming together. Once we've gone to our camps and we listen to each other, then we all come out, and that's the best time to actually get progress. But the catch is we've had too many people not willing to go back to their camps. We don't want to rock the boat because the boat's floating for us. Like, we don't. And like I tell some people, like with trickle down economics, it's like when you're in a drought, like, that boat's going to tip over. Like, it doesn't matter how much it trickles down, the boat's tipping over.
Yeah, well, trickle down doesn't really come to me when I see the yacht out there. It's like, well, I'm still driving my VW GTI.
Yep. I
don't have a Ferrari. I see this guy with a Ferrari, and I've got a busted diesel.
Yep. And it's just like, if you're not reaching out to, from the political level, if you're not reaching out to your constituents, and not just reaching out, but you're making active effort to experience your constituents, right? I'm going not just to the parties and all that stuff. I'm going to go to the grocery store down the street. I'm going to go to here and go to there, right? And listen to their problems. Don't listen to their partisan bickering. We're like, oh, this party's doing this and this party's doing that. Listen to their problems, and then honestly ask yourself, how am I addressing this problem? That's what leaders would do.
Yeah, what pundits do. That universal income debate, like, can we get a real conversation?
Yep.
About something like that, right?
Yep.
Instead of suddenly saying, well, the socialist.
Yep.
Oh, because somebody just throws a tag on, then you can't talk about it because now you got labeled, and so now you can't even talk because it just triggers people, and they're gonna get all up.
Yep. but if you're just being a puppet, right? All you're gonna look for is the talking points. All you're gonna look for is, oh, I'm gonna get mine, and if you get yours, good luck, good for you. But I really don't care if you get yours.
I'm gonna own you.
Yeah.
If I can own you.
Yep.
And it gives me a lot of pleasure, even if I can't afford the price of eggs. I own you.
Yep,
that's good.
That's good, I guess. But that's where the catch is. That's where the catch is. If you are a leader and you're a leader in a community, you will listen to the community's problems. If you're a puppet and you want only what's yours, and you don't care about your community, like, you can't blame people for being in the system that they want. So
yeah, and then a bad loop. You just keep on bad looping. It's like, oh, I keep on hearing this bad song.
Yep.
On replay all day. It's like, why do I keep on hearing that?
Yep.
Well, because you keep on playing it.
Yep. Yep. So,
but
it's all a thing. Like I said, we could talk about this for hours.
Well, it's an interesting place to be. It's cool that you're in this headspace, that you look at that, and the whole idea about leadership. I think we brought up some really good topics. I want people to maybe go back and listen to this and understand the definitions of leadership and the definitions of managers and supervisors that you had, because I don't think people fully understand that. And I think it's worth people going back and listening to what we said about an hour ago. But I want to thank you for being on the show. We do have the ftsleaders.com URL up. So if people click on that, what do they find there?
It's a link to my page. I have some some vlog stuff that I put on TikTok there. They'll also find my book, Employment Ethics: Redefining the Employer-Employee Relationship, where I go more into into the topic of just employment ethics and how that relationship right now is completely off balance, and we really should be fighting to have a return of balance to that relationship.
I think the balance is super important, and hope everybody can check out your URL, take a deeper dive into source materials that we've been talking about, kind of on the periphery of our discussion today. But I want to thank you for being on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Thank you for having me.